potential board members and all of you guests came here this evening. So thank you very much. And please feel free to stop in if you didn't get a tour. Stop in on another day, and I certainly can find some kids that would be glad to walk you around. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Mary Strufert, and on behalf of our co-sponsors this evening, I welcome you. And our sponsors are the Duluth PTSA Council, Clayton Jackson McGee Memorial, Students for the Future, Community Action Duluth, and the League of Women Voters. And on behalf of them, I welcome all of you, and I especially want to welcome Superintendent Bill Gronseth. I believe it's in the back. There he is. I am a member of the League of Women Voters, and I will be the moderator for this evening's program. I would like to thank Doug Bowen Bailey at that end and Kathleen Youngblood at this end for being here tonight to interpret the forum in American Sign Language. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan volunteer organization. While we, as the League, do study and take stands on issues, we do not endorse or support political parties or candidates. The views expressed by the candidates tonight are their own and not those of the sponsoring organizations. We do encourage you, as we encourage our members as individuals, to become involved in our community and the political party of your choice. It is the purpose of the sponsoring organizations to provide you with an opportunity to hear candidates discuss issues that are important to you face to face. There is never enough time to cover all the issues that may be of interest to you in this limited time setting. If your question is not addressed, we encourage you to contact the candidate directly. Because the sponsors of this forum have structured the forum in a way that promotes civility, this is a civility certified event. This evening you should have received some materials from Speak Your Piece, the Civility Project. The project is an initiative of the Duluth Superior Area Community Foundation. The foundation thanks this forum sponsors for the opportunity to participate in this event, and we thank the candidates and you as audience members for your cooperation. Of the materials you received, one is a greenish colored card that lists 9 tenets of civility on the back side, and also a white sheet that lists expectations of you, the audience members, as this forum proceeds. And if you have any questions about that, there are people who are here from the Civility Project that will be happy to talk to you about that. The format for the evening will include an opening statement from each candidate, questions from the sponsoring organizations, audience questions, and a closing statement from each of the candidates. You were handed cards when you came in to write your questions on, and if you would like to submit a question, just raise your hand with the card and the ushers will pick it up. And if we have time, we will ask as many of those as we have time for. In order to be fair to all candidates and make the best use of our time tonight, I ask that the audience remain silent and to withhold applause until the end. And do not take pictures or record any part of the event. The forum will be recorded in its entirety and available for viewing at the website of the League, lwvduluth.org, or on PAC TV. They are both recording tonight. At this time, I would like to introduce the candidates for the school board. We have quite a slate here tonight of candidates. And so I will start here at this end. We start with David Bolgren and Art Johnston, who are running for District 4. Next to Art is the next four candidates are running to represent people at large in the community. Henry Banks, Annie Harala, Harry Welty, and Nancy Nelson. And way down there is Joe Mathis and Rosie Loeffler Kemp, who are running in District 1. The order of speaking was determined in advance by drawing numbers, and the order of speaking we will rotate, and with the first round of questions, Art Johnston will be going first. And before we start that, I just want to say that we do have timers, and I will be cutting people off when their time is up. You can see the 30-second and the stop sign. We ask that you finish your thought. You don't have to stop mid-sentence, but finish your thought quickly, and so we have time for all the questions. We have a large group here tonight, and it's going to take us a while to get through. So at this time, we will start with the opening statements, and we will begin with Mr. Johnston.
Hello, I'm Art Johnston. Is this too loud? Sounds kind of loud. It's great to be here. Welcome to all of you here. It's great to have, it's actually great to have more people here at the forum than there is candidates. We've been at somewhere there's not. So thank you for coming. And I represent 4th District now. It's been really an honor to represent the 4th District, and I hope I get elected again. It's education is very important for me. Talk a little bit about my family. My father was on a school board, not up here, where I grew up. My mom was a school nurse for many years. My son has a PhD in music, lives in Washington, D.C., and my other son has a degree in automotive engineering. I've got a degree in engineering. I am a professional engineer, and I've enjoyed that enormously. Of course, schools are very important, but schools are not just about children. We have to have a foundation. We have to have a sound foundation. If we don't have, we have to pay teachers. We have to pay utilities. And to do that, we have to do better. We have to have better financial management, and I'm hoping that the questions will come up with those questions. So thank you, and looking forward to talking to you and talking to you afterwards.
Thank you. Very happy to be here tonight. Also, thanking you all for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be here. I am originally from St. Joseph, Missouri, and have lived in Duluth for the past 25 years through a variety of different opportunities that I've had here. Economically, my life hasn't been so great because of the work that I do, but I would not change it for anything in the world, because it's about people and it's about building people up where they are and lifting them up. And so that's what I'm all about. I'm also about making sure that I work as hard as I can to provide the best quality of education for all children. And that's why I'm running for school board, because all children need to have opportunities in our school district. Right now, that's not going on, and we need to make changes here for every single one of our children. When I look at the graduation rates for all kids in ISD 709 school district of Duluth, I'm concerned. And I'm hoping you'll hear more. Oh, 30 seconds. We'll have 30 seconds more. I'm sorry. So my goal is to work again toward making sure that the quality of education for every student in ISD 709 is the best it possibly can be. And I hope to get your vote too. Thank you.
Well, good evening. I'm Annie Harla. I'm running at large for the Duluth School Board, and I'm really glad to have the opportunity to speak with each of you this evening. I am originally from Duluth. I grew up just over the river and in Chester Bowl. Graduated from Central High School in 2002 and had a chance to go away. And after graduating college, spent a few years teaching in inner city Chicago and in Yakima, Washington. And after moving back here, worked at the Duluth YMCA and coordinated with 10 counties and school districts, mentoring and tutoring and after-school programs throughout the region. And now I work in public health and how we can work with schools and communities on making the healthy choice the easy choice. And so as I got involved this last year, in the levy campaign, which I'm supportive of, I took a look at the makeup of the board and saw, I don't see anyone that looks like me. I want to see people that are working really hard, and we have really hardworking people, but I wanted to see people that were really passionate and really committed to moving our city forward and listening to our community as we make decisions, but then also moving into this next chapter for our community. So I'm very passionate about our system. I want to see how our community can, again, come together around our schools, and I trust that our community really can. So thank you.
Henry, I have to commend you. When that stop sign came up 30 seconds early, I thought you stopped on a dime very well. I'll tell you basically what most people who answer the door when I knock on it hear. I'm Harry Welty. I served on the Duluth School Board 8 years ago, and when I left the school board, we had some of the smallest classrooms in the state of Minnesota. And the people who took my place decided to fix everything with a $500 million spending plan that we didn't get a chance to vote on, and now there are 40 students in some of our high school classrooms, and some of them have been sitting on the floor. And I'd like to get elected to the school board to change our priorities and take us back where we were when I was on the board.
Hello, my name is Nancy Nielsen. I'm running for school board at large, and I also want to thank you for coming this evening and spending some of your time with us and learning about us. I got involved in the school district and the affairs of the school district back in 2003. I was the chair of the levy campaign back when several levies had not passed, and the school district was really in a dire straits. And I got involved. I brought together about 30 people, and from all over the city, west, central, and east, and we all got together and met on a weekly basis and worked our tails off to try to get that levy passed. And we got it passed, and it was renewed in '03, and it's now up for renewal again this year. And so I'm very hopeful that our community, who's entrusted us with these dollars in the past two referendums, will do so again. And at both levels. I agree that we really do need to have both levels passed. While I was out talking to the public about the referendum, I also heard over and over again issues about our buildings and so forth. And so I worked very hard while I was on the school board to help get our schools upgraded. And my background is I have a degree in business administration, a minors in mathematics and economics, and a master's degree in business administration. I'm a lifelong learner. I went back to school in my mid-40s. I believe in education. All three of my children have college degrees, and one with a master's degree. I taught at the university level twice, and so I'll pass on more information as the night goes on.
Hi, I'm Joe Mathis. I am running in District 1. I hope you guys all have a really good time tonight learning about the candidates and getting some insight as to where we stand. One thing I've noticed going through all these forums and being with all these candidates over and over again is that there is not a single person who is going to go to bed at night thinking that I am the worst candidate in this race and that I don't deserve to win. And that's really important for a candidate to acknowledge that and have the self-awareness that we all want to win because we all believe that we can do really well. And I do believe that I can do really well as a candidate. I think that the work we've put in knocking on doors and meeting people stands out to show how important this community or how much this community believes in its schools. I think that's lost on some people because there is still some residual issues with the fact we have these beautiful buildings. There's not a person out there who can say that these aren't beautiful, that they're not great. The problem is that we're not staffing them appropriately, and our kids are in large classes, and we're not educating them to the level we need to be educating them. And I hope that once I get on the school board, we can fix that. And I want to do it for every kid. I have 2 little kids who are going to be going into our schools within, if I'm elected my first term. And I am excited to make sure that their education is as good as the one I got while I went to these schools.
My name is Rosie Leffler Camp, and I am running for the 1st District seat. I'm a mom with 4 kids. My oldest daughter is right here, Rachel, and who's 24, and I have a 21-year-old, 18-year-old and a 6th grader at Ordine East. So I am one of those people and families that 20 years ago when my husband and I moved here that I think Duluth wanted to attract. A young family, we had 2 kids at the time. We got very engaged in the community in lots of different ways in the last 20 years. And we particularly got very involved in education issues in our kids' school, as well as district-wide in the community on different initiatives. And it's been because of that involvement, that experience of working both on school issues, but also working with a number of the organizations that are putting on this forum, in fact, that I decided to run for school board now. And my kids have had an excellent education in the Duluth Public Schools. I want that for all kids. And when I've been out at the doors, it's been really great to ask people 2 questions. What makes a great school and what makes an effective school board member? And throughout the forum, I hope I can share that with you. People have a lot of pride in our schools, and it's been really great being out there talking with folks and hearing from folks.
Well, I can just stand behind Harry just for a second. He didn't misspeak. We had the smallest classrooms, maybe. I don't know the numbers. Now we have actually modern classrooms, appropriately sized. Small classrooms were not providing the education our kids need. So all the money we spent, way to go. Thank you, Duluth. How we got to this point, a lot of problems, a big price tag. But where are we going? That's what we're going to talk about tonight. My name's David Bolgren. I'm running in the, I'll be polite, sit down. Running in the 4th District. I want to thank particularly 2 sponsors here tonight, the Students for the Future. My daughter Anna, our daughter Anna, was a founder of that group, and they met for the first year at our kitchen table. And we were very proud of what we overheard that group doing, uniting East, Central, and Denfeld. Very proud of those kids, very proud of the group that has continued. And the second, the citywide PTA, my wife Kelly's been involved with that for a long, long time. And so I really appreciate them putting on this, this forum. You'll be hearing a lot about myself. I have a long tradition as an active parent. As Rosie said, part of the community that's active has kids in the school and really takes part in their education, but keeps an eye open to how the community really could be better served. And that's why I ran for school board, because I think the community could be better served. Thank you.
Thank you. The next portion of our forum, the candidates will respond to questions submitted by the co-sponsors, and the questions will be, the candidates have not received the questions in advance. Each candidate will have 1 minute, and we will be starting with Henry on this one. And the question is, what is the role of a school board member? What is the role of a school board member?
I think the very obvious question is the role of the school board is to provide leadership to administration, to the superintendent, to the associate superintendent, to the superintendent's cabinet as to what we would like to see as a community and what we provide as it relates to education for our children in the school district. That's the first and foremost thing that the school board should do. It is also to make sure that we are being fair across the board with our policies, with the procedures that are in place so that they benefit all of our children equally. If we're not doing that as a school board, we're not doing the right job. And in my opinion, that's the leadership we need on the school board in Duluth, and I think we can do it. I want to be one of those candidates to do that.
I firmly believe that there are 4 roles that they play. It's to lead, to serve, to engage and to empower our community. We need to be leading our community forward, and we need to be engaging our community in how we are making our decisions, that it's not just a silo, it's reaching out and getting as many parents involved as we possibly can, getting young professionals and seniors and everyone possible involved in our community process. And we also need to serve. It is our role as leaders to not just grandstand and say only what we believe, but it's to serve. It's to understand and to serve our community in a way that we possibly can. And then we need to empower. We need to empower our kids to lead. We need to empower our community to lead and to be involved. And that comes through tough decisions. It comes through not making everyone happy all the time, but it comes with planning and envisioning for our future.
Well, of course, school board is an elected body. They're elected by the community to help oversee the public schools. We need to listen to the people who elect us, make sure that the job of educating our children goes along as well as possible. It's not to micromanage, tell the superintendent to tell everybody what to do, but to make sure that the job is being done correctly, and to behave with a sort of decorum and with a kind of interest in what goes on to make sure that the education does succeed and do well. That's it.
The role of a school board member for me is providing leadership, feedback to the superintendent, especially as it pertains to what the community members are having to say. We hear from community members quite regularly as a school board member, and it's important that we take that information and pass it on. It's also to be able to make effective policies. It's a school board member's role to make sure that the policies that get put into place are ones that can be implemented and implemented fairly and are effective. And so that's a key role. Another key role is to make sure that we maintain financial stability. When I left the school board, we had about I think a $12 million reserve, and now it's shrunk quite a bit down to a couple million. And so there's concerns about financial stability, and that is one of the roles of the school board, is to make sure that we are paying attention to that type of thing as well.
Yeah, statutorily, the school board, everyone knows, the job is to maintain and control the functions of the school district. But on the broader sense, I think as people who are running for elective office, we understand that a school board member needs to do much more than that. It's a role of advocacy in the community. You need to be talking to people, understanding what your constituents want, understanding what the community wants, and moving forward as best you can with the wishes of the community. It's also to make sure that you understand that you're in a role of governance and not a role of management. I think that does get lost on some people every now and again, but being an elected official does not mean that if I were elected school board, I could walk into a teacher's office and tell her what to do, or him what to do. And in my role and what I do for a living, I see that far too often, and I hope that I won't transfer any of those bad habits that I've seen into my role as a school board member.
Great. Well, a lot of great things were said. I guess I'll add to it that one of the roles is to be listening and being accessible out in the community, being approachable out in the community. Another was mentioned about providing leadership to administrators, providing leadership to within the school board itself, at meetings, providing leadership there. Another role is taking a big view on issues that come before you. There's so many issues that actually do come in front of the school board that aren't just funding issues, and so having a big view of that, thinking district-wide on issues, and then another area, the empowering people to come to the school board, empowering parents and caregivers to be involved in their schools. And then lastly, just again, working to make sure the policies that we're deciding on, the funding decisions that we're making are in the best interest of all children.
Thank you. Can we get the microphone back up here?
I agree with all that has been said, the leadership. I will add that the school board holds the bar. It's not out of their power to demand that expectations are met, to hold the administration accountable, because the taxpayers, the voters, are holding the school board accountable. And so it's a very tight circle of accountability and responsibility. And I want to be part of that circle. The school board also gets to look across the entire district. It's one of the few parts of the district that really has to take that large view. What works at East and Denfeld have to complement each other. And what works among all the elementary schools has to work at the district level. And that's an important role. It's not micromanaging, but it's that awareness and that need to know. And I hope to take that very seriously.
The school board has a role of several very important things. One, hiring the superintendent. Two, setting policy. Three, making sure we follow laws. Another very important role that we have is that schools don't exist by themselves. They exist because we have a community there that supports them with tax dollars and volunteer effort. We have to listen to those people. The school board's function, I think, when we're elected, is to make sure that the people are listened to. The school boards in the past have not been listening to the people in our community, and we have to do a better job at that, and I've been doing that very well in West Duluth, and I'm looking forward to continuing it.
At this time, our question is going to come from Students for the Future. Ingrid Holstrom is going to ask the question.
As a group, we have been working hard on the levy campaign, and we are wondering if both tiers of the levy were to pass, where would your priorities lie for the funding to be used?
Well, first of all, I want to say it's great to know that these three in the front row that are sitting here with Students for the Future are seniors. And they're advocating for this levy and getting involved at this time in their life when this isn't going to affect them. So thank you to all that you've been doing for serving. When I see this levy pass, and it needs to pass, we need this for our community. I want to see first that we need to lower our class size and not just use it as, oh, we need to lower class sizes. We need a smaller student-teacher ratio so that students can be at the center and their data can be tracked, and they can be known by their teachers as a person. Then I would want to make sure that we have comprehensive support around that we're able to track students that are on the fringe, and we're looking at their academics and their behavior and their core subject areas, and then beyond that to the different areas where they can find their spark. So ways that we're able to track that data to be able to catch all students and lead them towards success.
And as students, you know the most important question of this election, because what we have to do is we have to hire more teachers and reduce class sizes. And as one of the people who was a great critic of the Red Plan, the fact that we didn't get a vote on it, I'm trying to make clear to all those people who are disgruntled that we have a huge investment in this community, $500 million for new schools, and we've got to make sure that we don't let those schools fail after that huge investment. Frankly, if the first levy doesn't pass, there will be blood on the floor. $3 million worth of teachers are going to have to be laid off because we won't have the money to replace them or pay them. If we get the second levy passed, and I hope it does, it'll be a harder slog, we'll have a chance to hire a few more teachers and make a modest improvement in those class sizes. That is the only thing that I intend to do if both levies pass and I serve on the school board, is reduce class size.
As far as the levy is concerned, I agree that we have to really focus on lowering class sizes. As a school board member, one of the things that I did was request information on what the class sizes were, especially at the elementary level, where I went through class by class and I color coded which ones had too many children in red and those that had, 30 above in red, and those that were in their 20s, yellows and greens when they got to the lower 20s and so forth, because to me it was so important that we really focus on making sure that those class sizes are appropriate so our children have an opportunity to learn. I'd also put some money into curriculum and upgrading our books. Our students need to have more current books that they're learning from, and I'd also maintain our specialists. That's one of the things that came about as a part of the referendum that I chaired and Rosie worked on as well, was to get specialists so that our arts teachers we have in art classes they're teaching art, and in music we have music teachers, and in Fayed we have Fayed teachers, and so those would be the areas I'd focus on.
I think the class size issue is the obvious issue that everyone is aware of. We're sitting right now at class sizes well above MDE standards, and it's unacceptable in this community and to me that we've put ourselves in that position, and we are the ones who have to rectify it. We got to take pride in our district, and I would urge every single person that I talk to vote yes on both questions of the levy, to make sure they pass. We can't afford to not invest in these buildings. We can't. Our kids deserve better, and I know our community can do better. Reducing the class sizes is going to hopefully help things that we have that are going bad right now, including a very large achievement gap and a graduation rate that has fallen roughly 25% since I graduated about 12 years ago. I don't think that can be acceptable in this community. I think we also need to expand curriculum options. I don't think kids should have to take or to have to choose between taking an honors class or taking an art class, or taking an art class and taking a shop class. Any other option out there.
Great. I want to thank Billy and Ingrid and Eric as well for your involvement with Students for the Future and your leadership that you've given the levy initiative. So thank you. I do support the levy. I do support both questions. One of the things I hear a lot out at the doors from particularly young parents looking at schools right now is class sizes. And so that's where I would like to see the money used. And I think that'll help us make our school district the district that parents are choosing more. I also worked at Lester Park Elementary for 3 years. I've seen firsthand the impact of large class sizes. The work I did with AmeriCorps was pulling kids out, often with reading and math groups, to help support the teachers because of the large class sizes. So need more teachers, need more support in our schools for our staff.
One of the students here told me he has a textbook in his Ziploc bag to keep the pages together. We can do better. We can do better with 2 yes votes, and the community should understand that and want that to happen and make that happen. Small class sizes, yes, of course. More teachers, tweaking the student-teacher ratio, very expensive but very necessary. I'm very encouraged also. One of the line items in the district's information is to modernize the science curriculum. I'm a research biologist for the Environmental Protection Agency. Science, technology, very important to me. They're also important to our future. Those classes, getting them right, getting them modern, cost money. And so I would hope that we can expect to use some of the new levy money to modernize curriculum and to bring class sizes under control.
If both of these pass, I certainly hope that this money will be used to hire more teachers. One of the things that I'd advocated on since I've been on the board for 4 years is putting criteria on what this money is going to be used for. Unfortunately, the board has refused to do that repeatedly, and that's a big mistake. I think we've seen in the paper headlines and editorial that pass this but have accountability. I think we all know that the school board has not been accountable to the money that they've had. They've put a very low priority on it, on academics, and we have to change that, and if this passes, this will be an opportunity to do that, but only if the board starts paying attention to academics and doesn't go through and just wildly spend this on projects that we do not need.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, Henry, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'd like to say that what I would do with the money is, first of all, we need to take a look at the hiring of teachers of color. And we need to take a look at increasing the number of integration specialists that we have in ISD 709, because our demographics are changing. According to Dr. Kevin Lindsay, who is the Minnesota Commissioner of Human Rights, it's changing all over the state, including Duluth. And we have to be prepared as a district to understand that these changes are coming. They're here now, and we need to prepare the district to provide teachers of color and more integration specialists to help our children of color and others who are struggling. The graduation rate, as you know, for children of color in ISD 709 is abysmal, and we need to change it now, because that is our future also.
Thank you. Our next question is, what role, if any, do the school board members have in educating the Duluth community on the importance of supporting and funding public education? What actions, if any, would you take as a school board member to do this? That's kind of a long question. I'll just summarize it. So what's the role of the board, if there is any, in educating the community on supporting public education, and how would you do that?
Well, I'm glad to be the person to start with that question. Since I was on the school board in 1996, first time, I've done my very best to try to disseminate my views about the Duluth School District, what it needs. When the internet came around and when I discovered that I could set up a web page to do that, I began writing extensively about things that were happening in the school district, because my sense of public schools is this: you as parents have children that disappear for 8 hours behind brick walls and have no clue what's happening. And I don't think that that absence of information is good for the community. I also have a blog, which those of you who've had the misfortune of stumbling into it have discovered has millions of words, in which I've sat down and I've done a lot of thinking about where our schools are. I think it's a very critical function. It's always been awkward for school board members to disseminate information, but to the extent that we can do it, we have a huge obligation to do that.
While I was on the school board, I took every opportunity that I possibly could to be supportive of what was going on within our schools. I believe that we need to be advocates of our schools. We have to be supportive, positive, getting as much of a positive message out as we can. And so you don't necessarily always get the opportunities that you would like as a board member to be able to do that, but any functions that we go to, it's the positive things. It's also making sure that meetings get set up so that community members have a chance to get together to talk about the situation or the budget or areas in which we want money to be geared towards or money that has to be cut, getting input and so forth. But I definitely believe that as school board members, we need to attend those meetings, listen and hear what people have to say, and use that input as it moves forward. But for me, a role of a school board member is to be very positive and supportive of our educational system.
If a school board is setting policy, it needs to be the job of a school board member to be advocating for that policy and be doing so visibly and vocally within the community. A school board member should be the one out there telling people what it means if there is no other option, because as far as I know, most parents don't actually go to school with their children and spend time in the classroom learning with their children. So if a school board is passing a policy, especially one that may be controversial, a school board member needs to be out in the community, holding forums, knocking on doors, doing the things that a good advocate does to make sure that the community is behind them. And meeting constituents and meeting members of your community builds trust. And if the trust is in the community with the school board member, then the community is going to be more likely to advocate that for which the school board member is advocating, which in turn could get us more support behind levies?
Well, I definitely agree with what Nancy said about being a school board member means or should be about having a lot of pride on the board that you're serving on, and pride in this case for the school district that you're representing. I have served on many boards, including being the state president of the Minnesota PTA for 3 years, where I went around the state getting to know other school districts as well. And serving on leadership roles like that and many other boards, again, I have found that being a voice of knowledge, a resource is also very important. And one would think I was already on the school board because I've had a number of calls in the last couple weeks about bullying. And I spent time with people going over the school district's bullying policy, going over procedures. And so I think, again, just being a resource for the community, being out there accessible and for questions is really important.
We know a lot of people who have chosen to put their kids in other districts, other schools. I'm meeting a lot more of those people as I knock on the doors for the last few months. The first thing I ask them is whether they're running away from Duluth Public Schools or they're running to another school, running to St. James, running to Renshaw, Proctor. And if they say, no, we have a better situation in Proctor or homeschooling or St. James, I'm okay with that because that's their choice. I respect that. As a school board member, I'm very concerned if they're running away from Duluth Public Schools. If they're running away from some situation of bullying or some inadequacy of policy or some situation in the school that they couldn't handle, that was not handled properly by the administration, by the teachers, and they chose to run away from Duluth schools. The school board members have to cheerlead, have to win the competition for those kids, bring those families back, and give them what they deserve.
School board member has to play a role of a mentor for the students, also for the teachers, even for the administration, and also for the community that we represent. Again, the schools do not exist without us as citizens, and our job is to take that feedback from there and show how important the schools really are. We have to get that. We have to listen to them too. We can't just keep ignoring what the people are saying. When people leave out of the school there, we have to show that what are we doing that's wrong? What have we done as a school to make 1,700 students leave our school system in the last 5 years? We have to figure that out. We have to bring it back. We have to tell the community. We have to tell the administration. We have to fix it. Because schools are important. Our schools in Duluth are important.
I think we have to focus on the positive aspects of our school system. We don't do that very well. There's a lot of negativity out there. We need to get rid of that negativity. Right now, we can't deal with that. We have to also say that, in my opinion, I should tell you that I believe the inclusion of the Edison Charter School in our school district coming to Duluth has been the detriment to ISD 709 schools. That, in my opinion, is something that we have to really take a look at. And now they want our Central High School. And I have trouble with that because that doesn't do us any good as we are trying to get our school system back on track. And, I just needed to say that. But we have to keep this thing positive, and it has to be about the kids of ISD 709, and we have to share the positive aspects of what's going on throughout our district.
I recently have been doing a lot of research on collective impact, and it's where a lot of organizations can come together, but a backbone organization can help to lead and to get common evaluation and common tools on how we move forward. And I believe that the school board can be, and the school district can be, a backbone organization for student success and community success. When we have good community, when we have good schools, it's a big indicator of a promising community. So I would see that the district would need to be engaging different people on, you kind of picture it like it's people are on a rowboat. We have different oars. We have the business community and the schools and young professionals and the colleges and all the different places that are a part of building our community. We need to be all moving forward in the district, and the school board's role is to be working with each of those oars in order to move and change and affect our community positively.
Thank you. I think we're on to question 4. What can the school board do to support parent involvement through Title I programs? And we start with Nancy Nielsen.
Title I is a very important aspect of our schools. The children that are in need of additional help are needing our support, and we need to make sure that the programs that we have in place are identifying the children that are in need and are getting those children the help as early on as possible. And I believe that the parents need to be involved very early on as well. If a child is having trouble reading and we identify that early on, we need to make sure that that parent knows that and that they understand what the ramifications are going to be if we don't get that extra help for them, so that they are also supporting and promoting and wanting their child to be involved. Letting them know that it's okay that you are getting this extra help and that maybe you're not being able to go to an art class because you need to have some additional reading or some additional math or whatever the area is that the child is having trouble in. And so the parent involvement is essential. We need to make sure that they feel comfortable that and understand what it's all about, and that those resources are available to them.
I hope when a teacher does identify a student who needs an IEP, they contact the parent immediately and get a meeting together and discuss where the child needs to be and where they think they can bring them. I think we need to have as many paraprofessionals and as many Title I teachers as necessary in order to teach all these students who may need that little bit of extra help. And I think the parents still need to sign off on what we're going to do, but we need to let them know that it's okay. And having your child get extra help is a good thing because it helps them move toward a successful life later, as long as they get the help now. And affecting them early on is a lot better than waiting till later. And I think that if a teacher and a principal explain that to the parents, then the child's going to do a lot better.
When I was the state PTA president, I had the opportunity to lobby on the parent involvement portion of Title I funding at the national level, and the national PTA took a big role on the number of different aspects that parent involvement should play with Title I funds in school districts and in the schools. And so I think it's more than about just having meetings about your child. If your child is identified early, it's about involving parents in decision making at the school level, at the district level, and there actually are requirements about the roles that parents play in the district-wide with committees with Title I funds. And so parent involvement is extremely important.
The question is very specific, and I would suggest overly specific. I would advocate that parent involvement should be a general policy, a general practice within each school. Parent involvement should be institutionalized and should be paid for. A lot of our schools are Title I schools. Therefore, Title I dollars can be used for parent involvement. That's an important part of how education is delivered at the school, because it does bring parents in. It's a very focused involvement of those parents, giving them the encouragement. But whether it's funded by Title I or by some other means, it needs to be in every school. It needs to be at Congdon, and it needs to be at Laura MacArthur. So however it's paid for, it should be a district priority to get parents in the doors and give them something to do. The school board can set that climate, can set those policies, have the expectations that those parents are welcome in all the schools.
Title I money's been around for about 40 years as based on basically the percentage of kids that have free and reduced lunch. A absolute necessary part of that is parents are supposed to be involved. That is what Title I is making sure that they're involved, making sure that they become part of their children's education, and that is what Title I is. Some schools do not get Title I money. It's important that we audit our Title I money. Where is it going? Which schools are getting Title I money? And make sure that those schools are in fact getting Title I money. We've got very successful intervention on some of our schools to lowering, increasing the test scores and everything, and that's one thing. We got other money in some of our other schools. Title I money could be that. That's what that's for, to involve the parents, involve the students, and get them to achieve. That's exactly what Title I money is for, and we have to insist that it happens.
Thank you. I want to say, too, that first and foremost, we need to determine how Title I funds are currently being allocated in ISD 709 schools, and we need to make sure that all parents are invited to the table. And currently, as it relates to parents of color and those who are in poverty, they are not at the table. And we need to be very serious about this because those funds are supposed to go to those communities that need more attention and more support. And the district, we need to really be serious about how we allocate these funds because it's about, again, the betterment of all children in ISD 709. That's enough said.
Well, I did see an open letter on Saturday that was submitted by the Duluth Parents Advisory Council that has been, and I've met with a few of them at some Big View forums at Community Action Duluth on the third Thursday of the month? Is it? I know they have one this week I have to miss, but I'm impressed that it's a model where we're meeting people where they're at, and we can't answer all of our problems by expecting everybody to come to the school. Sometimes we have to meet people where they are, and then sometimes we have to teach people how to make the decisions that they want to make. And so as a big communication, as a large district, we have a hard time communicating what our vision is. And we need to find ways to tell people what their role is and encourage them to play a part in that. It's back to that "or" that I was talking about earlier, that the parents that are going to help make Title I decisions need to learn how to make those decisions as well too. And we need to empower them and meet them right where they are.
When I served on the Duluth School Board, Grant School was my favorite school. It was the little school that could. It was a school with a high percentage of free and reduced lunches. It would have looked segregated to the State Department of Education because it had a very high minority population. That has not changed. There were a lot of teachers here who cared a great deal about their children, and I admired them so very much. I'm pleased Stephanie Heilig is the principal here. She was a wonderful principal over at Netland, and so that is good. But Title I is the million-dollar question, because I think we're living in a society today that is not very kind towards people who are poor, more plunging into poverty. And we as a school district, whatever difficulties we face financially or otherwise, have to do whatever we can to address the needs of these kids. The idea that only 70% of our kids graduate from public school is a huge hurdle we have to solve.
Thank you. Before I ask the next question, I would just like to remind you that we will have some time for audience questions. So you were given a card, and if you didn't get a card, just raise your hand and somebody will give you one, and you can hand those in. Okay, our next question is, kind of jumps right off where Mr. Welty just spoke. With only 2/3 of high school students graduating from the Duluth Public Schools, how can the school board improve the performance of all students? And we're starting with Mr. Mathis.
I think we go back to what we talked about in the beginning, with everyone saying the biggest issue here and what we need to put our levy money into is class sizes. I don't think teachers have the ability, or I shouldn't say the ability, but the time to take care of the kids who really need the help in the classroom when they have 40 other kids to teach. It is too difficult for someone to slow down for those who need the extra help and still teach the other 40 kids in the classroom. If we can start bringing down class sizes, we can hopefully have our teachers help the kids who really need help succeed. And I think that goes to moving the achievement gap up, because if you help the kids who aren't succeeding, if you reduce the class size to help the kids that are succeeding, everyone should be able to do better. And I think that's what we need to do.
Well, I feel that the issues around the achievement gap, the achievement gap is really the civil rights issue of our time. The number one indicator is often poverty, and the schools can't deal with that issue alone. So we need to be continuing to work with the community and the schools in the community working together. We already do some wonderful things here in our school district with community after school programs, involvement. We just heard a wonderful story about Piedmont and their kickoff for the year and the way the community there, the business community, got around the schools. So we need to continue to work as a community to address some of these big problems and work with the schools to address some of these big problems, including poverty, including bullying, including just having safe schools overall. And this mic is not, it's going back and forth, so I can hardly hear myself think, right? Guys, gals, okay? So I know if we can do something about the mic.
I can't, but if there is somebody out there.
Lower this, you don't need to speak so close into it.
And that was only the first hour, folks. The class size coming down, those sorts of things are the right investments to make to increase graduation rates. The 7-period day at the high school is another good way to increase graduation rates. You're creating more opportunity. That's another $1 million, $2 million, I don't know. But it needs to happen. We're compressing these kids' days. We're compressing their choices. We're not engaging them because they have to pick between something that they might love that'll keep them in school and something they might need to graduate. They're making choices that shouldn't be in front of them. A longer day, a more flexible schedule, they're going to find what they need to get through school. And that will increase graduation rates. That will keep the kids coming into school. If they're not in school, they're not going to learn, they're not going to graduate. We need to offer them more in their curriculum. More opportunities is the way that they're going to learn and then graduate.
Could you repeat the question? It's got a little bit fuzzy here.
Yes. With only 2/3 of high school students graduating from Duluth Public Schools, how can the school board improve the performance of all students?
I think that's a couple things. We were just at the Denfeld Parent Advisory Council. We were told graduation rate in Denfeld was 85 and East is almost 90. There seems to be some numbers that are bouncing around, and certainly like to get a handle on that first of all. There's the graduation rates in Minnesota overall is 77% according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, puts us about the 35 out of 50 states. I think we particularly have to look at the community of color, the graduation rate for African Americans in Minnesota is literally 49 out of 50. For Indian students, it's 50 out of 50. So it's big an issue there. And other communities, other states have solved this very easily. And we can and we have to, we have to start hiring we have to start hiring students, we have to start hiring teachers, and particularly principals of color, and also not fire principals of color like we recently did.
So the number was 2/3, you said, as an issue. Well, it's an even greater issue in African American and American Indian communities. and we should be concerned about that too. But I would love to see ISD 709 invest in a system-wide equity policy. Because if there's a system-wide equity policy, we can start to address some of the disparities that are going on throughout our system. We also need to invest in an accrediting process so that we can make sure that our academic standards are the standards that we need for our kids and for our community. We do not have an accrediting system in Duluth anymore, and we need to take a look at that as well. And we also need to invest in what is called a mini course option so that kids can take a look at some additional kinds of things outside of college that they might want to take a look at for their future. We're not doing that enough, and I think we need to just kind of reshape what we do for our kids and for the community, because not every child is going to go to college.
I think it's very important to invest in students from cradle to career, and knowing that that we take some time to track their data as they go through school. I know I continue to come back to data, but when we look at data for students, we don't just look at what their grades are, we look at their attendance, their behavior, how they're doing in their core subject areas, and how they're working with one another, and that can really help to support that student. So in passing the second levy, we'd have the option to buy into that type of system and be able to staff our schools in a way that we're better tracking student data, taking some of that paperwork off of the tables of pretty busy teachers, and being able to support those students one-on-one. And actually, we're in a building right now of a case study that's doing a great job around the achievement gap and around student learning, and it's the Myers-Wilkins Community Schools Collaborative. It's a group that has come around the school to help support our students with before and after school programming, providing mentoring, tutoring, and after school programs. I just want to say this, we want to not just look at kids in high school, we want to make sure we get their spark by middle school, because kids quit school by middle school but leave in high school. So we've got to get them as early as possible and to find kind of that spark of who they are. Thank you.
I used the figure of a 70% graduation rate recently, and I've got to tell you that when I read it, I think in the News Tribune recently, it just hit me upside the head, because we had, I think, a 90% graduation rate, and that was just 8 years ago when I was on the school board. I need to find out what is happening and if that can possibly be a real graduation rate. I simply don't know. If it is, we have a huge job ahead of us. I said last time that I think that we have a society that's been very unfriendly towards the poor, and we're beginning to see that in schools. And what we have repeatedly attempted to do in my history as a teacher and then as a school board member is put different layers of bureaucratic rules and procedures in front of people, outcome-based education, no child left behind. If I was a teacher, I probably could rattle off 4 or 5 more. I'd like to unleash the power of our teachers and their creativity. And Annie Harlow works with a lot of young people. Get those people to figure out what we can do, break some of the bureaucratic barriers down, and see if we can't find some more interesting ways of solving these problems.
I agree with Annie as far as catching the problem early. We do lose a lot of students in middle school. Yes, they go on to high school, but they've really lost interest and so forth by the time they get to high school. I talked to a couple of teachers about this issue, and one of them had said to me, I can teach and I can help the students that are having difficulties, but I can't help those that are staring off and just are not engaged and just don't care. And so there are things that we need to do besides helping the students that are having difficulty in certain areas, but also to get them engaged, to get them to want to be in school, to allow them to feel comfortable, get the bullying stopped so that people will want to be in school and not fearful when they go to school. We are doing some things like with offering breakfast so that the kids are thinking about the classroom and what's going on instead of worrying about what they have are going to be able to have to eat throughout the day. We also need to offer all levels of classes so that there are different levels of students and their learning ability, and we have to make sure that we're keeping their attention through that as well.
Thank you. Now we are going to go into some of the audience questions, and I think we will start with this one. It says, what will be your method in conflict resolution when making group decisions. So I think they're referring to, as a board, when you disagree with each other as a school board, what method of conflict resolution would you use? And we start with Rosie.
Wow, that's a great question. Well, I think, again, we can kind of take a lesson from the civility list here that our school board has adopted in the past, and the 9 areas there, I think, speak to any time that you're serving on a board and working to come to resolutions, come to decisions on issues, and it's listening to learn from other people who have differing opinions. It's being respectful, both in how you're responding, how you're working as a board, how your body language is at a board meeting, and it's taking responsibility for how you're responding. So I think being positive, constructive, and really kind of using the civility thoughts.
One way to resolve conflict is to avoid conflict. Every question, every answer that may result in multiple opinions doesn't have to result in conflict. You can disagree and yet have a constructive dialogue. You can have multiple points of view, very different, passionate, and you can stop short of actually getting in conflict. You can still get the job done, and you don't have to overreach. You don't have to devolve into a dysfunctional organization. It's happened probably on every board out there. It certainly happened on this school board. The 4 new people that will be elected in 2 weeks will set a new tone, will set a new way to raise questions and to get the answers and then put that information to work. Still having multiple opinions floated about on the table, but it does not have to go to conflict.
I've been on many boards in my life, union boards, union conventions, where there's lots of discussion, lots of varying opinions here. Never have I seen a board, which is the school board here, that has been so ill-prepared for running meetings. Nobody follows the rules, nobody follows Robert's Rules of Order, and that's important. Why? Because when you have a real organization that is actually following their policy and the rules, there can be robust debate. Boards are here to have robust debate. They're not sit here to just to go along to get along. One thing that I would instigate is that we, as a board, start to have open agenda sessions. Believe it or not, I cannot get an agenda item on this board. We are broken as a board. We have to change the way we do business. We have to do better. And every other board can do better. We can as well.
So I think as a board member, I'd like to say that we need to respect each other and never take things personally. We're in that room, we're going to be engaging each other, and the decisions that we make are to benefit the children in the district. And if we're at that table for any other reason, pointing fingers, name calling, and not getting the work done for our children, then we shouldn't be there. And so for me, it's about respect, and it's about honoring the children, because we're there to provide the best quality education for them.
I often say that I was raised in the district at a time when they moved from having us sit in rows to having us sit at tables and working together. So I spent a lot of time having to work in groups, and I think group work is very important. And my job right now is actually working to build coalitions across northeastern Minnesota from all different sectors to make healthy choices in communities. And so as a board member, I would work to coalition build within within the board, we need to be working together and actually beginning on a base of relationship, getting to know one another, getting to know where you're able to find common ground, where you're able to disagree politely, but then come to consensus and actually work together. And so I would bring that to the board and saying that I work as hard as possible to build relationship and to work with my board members.
When I was a kid, I saw a movie with David Niven in it called The Best of Enemies, and it always impressed me. It was about the British Army in North Africa fighting with Italians, and they kept reversing roles, and one would become the captor of the others, and it was a comedy, light comedy, and the idea behind it was that despite this terrible war, at least in this movie, people could treat each other with a lot of respect. And I've always thought that was a very good model of how you should get along, and I've always been appalled, and I get more appalled every year when I watch the Congress and I see how Republicans and Democrats now treat one another. I believe you need to treat people with respect. I've also said that if you can't get passionate about children, what can you get passionate about? These are important children. This is our future. But you can have a strong disagreement, and you can be agreeable in your disagreements, and that's how I will act as a school board member.
There comes a point where you have to be able to say, I agree to disagree. And that's a real important concept, because we have multiple people that are on the board, and we're all going to be bringing forth different opinions and ideas and suggestions. We want everybody to feel very comfortable that they're going to be listened to, that everybody's opinion is able to be brought to the table, and that people are listening and they're being heard. That is one of the things that I think really helps in building relationships within school board members. So definitely respecting others' opinions. I also think that it would be helpful to film our education and business committee meetings and having those on the television as well. Right now we only film the school board meetings, and the community doesn't get a chance to really take a look and see what's happening when there's a lot of discussion that goes on at these other individual meetings. And that's when a lot of things are fleshed out and a lot of discussion takes place. And so if they were able to see that, it would help them understand that there are discussions that are taking place civilly too.
People are always going to have passionate opinions, and they may be in complete disagreement of what you believe, but one has to realize that those opinions are steadfast in that person because they believe in them strongly. So you have to be able to empathize with people and understand where they're coming from in order to be able to resolve the conflict. I mean, we have an odd-numbered board. You know, regardless of conflict, we have a majority of votes that'll go one way and minority that'll go another way in order to resolve the conflict, but we want to have good working relationships with these board members in order to make sure that we get constructive things done. We don't want to have a board that is petty with each other and name calls and causes consternation within the community because they don't think we know how to do our jobs. So I think just being empathetic with each other and understanding that we're all trying to do the best for each other and the community is what's important.
Okay, can you pass it back? And we're going to begin with David. And this question is kind of twofold, but I'm going to start out with, let's see, it says, what would you propose to do with Central High School? And then how would you fix the financial problems of the public school? I know that those are two huge issues, but I'll just throw them both at you. And if you choose to just answer one, that's fine. Or if you want to talk about both, go ahead.
Yes, there's a lot of room in there. Bluestone on the Hill. There's a concept. We're seeing it acted out in Woodland. The development of a retail residential property that's adding to the tax base, adding to the retail base, adding to the residential base that we need in the city. There's no reason that can't happen at the central site. It doesn't need to be a high school. It doesn't need to be any one thing. It needs to fulfill a dream of some developer out there, and they need to come put a real offer on the table with the new school board. That needs to be discussed fully. And that's what I would propose. And fixing the finance would take another 30 seconds. So, but the central property question, I'm glad it's come up. It's going to be settled by the new school board, not by Edison supporters through the paper.
We have a perfectly good school up there. It was built for a school. I say if somebody wants to buy it, we sell it to the highest bidder. These schools were built with taxpayers' money, your and I money, to what? To benefit the children. It was not to benefit ISD 709. Wasn't to benefit Edison Charter Schools. It's to benefit our children. If another institution can come in and do that, I say, hey, more power to them. We have absolutely no need for that. As far as the biggest economic problem is, we got to remember that we got to keep this a perspective. We still owe $394 million yet on amortization schedule on our new facilities, and $10 million, maybe $5 million that we get is really kind of a drop in the bucket. So just to tell everybody here, selling Central is not going to solve any of our problems. We don't want it, but it isn't going to necessarily solve our problems either. Our biggest problems in economics is pulling money out of the general fund to the tune of $8 million last year. That's not sustainable.
So I think people already know what I believe in as it relates to Central High School. I do not support selling Central High School to Edison Learning Incorporated, based in New York City, at the expense of our kids. Edison is a corporation. It's corporate education. And for me, if we were to sell that school to Edison, that would be like corporate welfare, okay, at the expense of our kids. We need to be creative in the selling of Central High School. And as far as I'm concerned, we should not just give it away to a competitor at the detriment of our school district. We need to really take a look at this. We do need to sell the building and the property, but please, we need to take our time in doing so, because we cannot do this at the detriment of our kids.
I think, excuse me, I do not agree with selling selling Central to Edison. I think that we need to work harder with our community and with our city council on how we can actually rezone that property and work to make it a lucrative property. I think that there are pieces of the building that could be used for education. STC just leased a downtown property for 5 years to be doing some of their vocational programming. Why can't we work with them in the future to house some of their facilities up at that central property that already have that built for, and work on that, and then strengthen our conversation between high school and the vocational programs that are moving forward. So I think that we need to be creative, and we need to work together, but we also need to better partner with the city as we sell off not just Central. We also have Morgan Park, which is a school that's available as well, and Hartley and Nettleton School. So we need to not just focus on Central, we need to look at all the properties, and then we need to get our business in line.
I've suggested to a number of people that I don't know that a sale is in the cards. I haven't counted noses. I haven't talked with everybody who's going to be on the new school board, providing I'm on the school board, to know whether they would sell. I think there's going to be a lot of reluctance. In fact, I just counted 2 people speaking before me tonight who've backed away from the idea of selling the school. The one thing that we need to keep in mind is that Edison has proven quite capable of building new schools. And apparently, 90% of the Edison parents want to keep their kids in the Edison environment. If, as I expect that they will be able to do without a great deal of difficulty, they set up a new high school and draw off 600 kids, there will be no reason, if we do not have an agreement with them, that they might not eventually draw off 1,200 kids or 3,600 kids. That may pose the greatest threat to the Duluth school system. I don't like the idea of 2 scorpions in a bottle. We're both public education entities. We need to find a way of getting along. I have suggested leasing the building. Right now it's a dead weight. Every year we have to maintain it, heat it. I will look for a solution like that, something practical, something that will be good for both of our systems, because they both educate our children.
The central site is a very important piece of property that to the city of Duluth as well. And like Dave had mentioned, I would like to see it get on our tax rolls, if that's at all possible. So I would like to work with the city council to find ways in which to rezone that to make that happen. If we do not have a developer that's interested in coming forward in that type of a capacity, then I would also like to consider the Lake Superior College option as well. Lake Superior College is expanding, and they, right now, like Annie said, have moved into a downtown space. And so, if they would be interested, I would definitely be interested in talking to them about what the options are and how we could proceed. Maybe work with our state legislators and legislators to see if we can make something like that happen.
The city council does need to take action and get that site rezoned if that is not going to be a school. Because it's not a school right now, it's a building. And that's what it is. It doesn't need to go to a school. And it is sitting on probably $15 to $20 million of taxable property on top of that hill. And I think the Duluth taxpayers, I'm not running for city council, but if I were, I'd be telling the Duluth taxpayers that the school board needs to do something to get that building sold, or the city council needs to do something to make sure it's rezoned and make it really attractive to a developer. There is a multitude of possibilities of what could go up on top of that site. It's gorgeous. Anyone who's been up there knows that that site is probably the prime piece of land in this city. And we need to do something with it, and we got to find a buyer and shore up our finances with that money.
Well, this question was asked at another forum a couple weeks ago, and I responded that I needed more information. And that was a real honest answer. When I was out door knocking the rest of the week, I had a lot of respect from people that I answered it that way. Some of the things I did to get more information to help me think about it was I did find out that the school district has not had a discussion with Edison, or Edison has not had a discussion with the school district. There's no proposals on the book. There's no discussions that I've had. I learned a little bit more about where the rezoning process was at with the city. Once that property is rezoned, we will be able to do more of an aggressive marketing with the school district. I also got the policy that the school district has on disposing of buildings, and there's a process that's in place that was we need to be using. And as I've been at the doors, there's lots of ideas people have for this property. And I am not doing well. That was my fault, Rosie. I apologize.
Okay. I think we have time for one more question, and then we'll have our statements. And this time we start with Art. And this is on teacher accountability. Please share your perspective about enhancing teacher accountability. Is it appropriate to shift teacher pay away from being based only on seniority toward an approach based on defined and measurable objectives regarding skills and outcomes?
I think that's opening a can of worms. Teachers don't like it. It's very hard to define. I think that is not the way we want to go. I think our teachers are backbones of our schools. They don't like it, and I'm not going to like it because if you define, we're gonna rate this teacher by my method, who's going to rate the raters? I don't like testing. Unfortunately, we do have a lot of testing. Some of our teachers are being rated out. They'll do better if they do better on testing. Maybe so, maybe not, but kids just do not learn about mathematics or reading. We have people who are fantastic car mechanics, that are musicians. You can't test that. I want to have our teachers, I think we all know what makes a good teacher. I don't want to be nitpicking what makes a good teacher and say, you're the good teacher, I'm going to give you more money. We want teachers that are competent, and I think we all know that, what that is, and that's not on some test score or even on QComp.
Can you repeat that question, please?
I'll just kind of get to the nub of it. Is it appropriate to shift teacher pay away from being based only on seniority toward an approach based on defined and measurable objectives regarding skills and outcomes?
I think ISD 709 has an opportunity here because we have some great teachers teaching our children. But I think what ISD 709 struggles with is staff development. When budgets are cut, staff development happens to be the first thing that goes. And students can't get the creative teacher that they need if teachers aren't allowed to be able to go out and get more education and more staff training. And so I'm reluctant to answer the question because I believe that we have some great teachers in ISD 709, but I think we need to refocus our attention back to staff development so that they can become even greater teachers.
This, as a daughter of a teacher who's taught for 35 years, the question always makes me cringe. Because just because my mom stayed a teacher didn't mean that she only gained money for that. She actually continued on and she ended up getting her master's degree while she did that, which helped her step up in that. And one of the hardest pieces of seeing teachers that work really hard is that we blame a small group of teachers that don't do a good job and put a lot of weight on the backs of teachers that are working really hard on what they do. So I think we need to, as an administration, we need to work with the unions to see how, and to work with the unions to see how they actually work with teachers that are not doing effectively. And I would also continue to push staff development, that we need teachers to continue learning about all different types of students. And just like we ask our kids to keep learning, we have to ask our teachers to keep learning.
I think one of the greatest threats to good education is inflexibility. And our teachers oftentimes feel like they're hamstrung by the union contract and by No Child Left Behind and the IEPs they have to do and all the rules, because everybody's monitoring absolutely everything. And if you can imagine that you had the NSA in your home and every one of your rooms watching you at all times, how much freedom or flexibility would you feel? That's kind of how I think our teachers face the world. Having said that, I kind of forgot what the question was.
Switching from
Here, just one story. When I was a teacher at Morgan Park, and they were, as always, worried about our kids not doing as well as other kids. This was what happened. The principal passed out all the computer printouts of how many all the other teachers in our profession and how many kids they were failing in their class. And the presumption was if we were failing more kids than other teachers, we were bad teachers. Merit pay is a problem, and I think you can tell from my example there that the easiest thing to do is just give kids an A, and then you're a great teacher.
Coming from the amount of business background that I have 32 years in the business world, and that's really what it's all about. It is all about merit. And you get raises based on how well you're doing and if you're achieving the objectives and so forth. And so that's one of the things that I really thought hard about as I was on the school board the last time. Does it make sense within the educational community? And I really struggled with that because I really couldn't find a good way that would work from an operational perspective and for the number of students that at the different levels of learning that students have and the different levels of classes that teachers have and which teachers are going to teach the children that are going to be excited about that class and do well and which ones are going to teach the students that really need a lot of help, and how are you going to measure that? And I was not able to find a way in which for me to reconcile that there really needed to be a change. And so I think that we just need to work within our system. I know that there are mentoring methods where we find teachers that are really excelling, that hold sessions and be able to help other teachers learn some of those techniques. And those are the type of areas that we need to focus on.
I wouldn't be in favor of doing that. Nancy just said it's the amount of variables that go into teaching to try to build a metric by which one could assign a level to a teacher on how well they're doing and how much they should be paid. Just it won't work out. Just in Atlanta a couple years ago, the superintendent of schools was indicted because there was a system-wide fraud going on because they were teaching or they were paying for performance. And in the realm of public education, it just, for me, it doesn't seem like a great idea. I think our teachers, by the vast majority, are hardworking, dedicated, and do their job well. And our students are getting the best from them, and it is us who are failing them by not reducing the class sizes and making the teaching environment better for everyone.
Well, we do have excellent teachers in our school district, and it was mentioned before that we've had cuts in staff development, and that often is cut, and we need to prioritize staff development, especially for new teachers and new paraprofessionals. There is mentoring going on, though. Working at Lester Park Elementary the last 3 years, I saw it happening over and over again, and some was led by the union, some was led by the leadership of the school principal. So there is mentoring going on. Does more need to happen? Yes. And I would not be in favor of merit pay or based on performance, because children all come to school, again, with so many different needs and so many different variables about how they're going to learn that day. I've seen that with my own 4 children. I've seen that working in the schools, how the different variables that kids are coming to school with. We can't be holding teachers accountable for learning because of those reasons.
As Nancy said, if there was a good system out there, it should be evident and in practice in a lot of different districts. It would be accepted by the education industry. I haven't seen it. I haven't done as much homework as Nancy has done, but I'm surprised that it doesn't exist. However, we don't have a system to have a true objective merit-based compensation system here. It could change in the future if that discussion comes up in a constructive way. I'm for that discussion. I am also for simple and objective compensation criteria. The more simple we make the expectations for a person's job, the freer they are to do that job. And that's empowering. If you're not trying to micromanage them, if they're not hamstrung, I heard used, by contracts or other limitations, they're going to teach better. They should be paid for that good teaching, but it should not be seniority only. The continuing education is very important.
At this time, we will ask each candidate to give a final statement, a closing statement, and you will have 1.5 minutes for this, and we will be starting with Henry.
First of all, I want to thank you for allowing me to be here tonight. I'm very passionate about ISD 709 schools. Duluth schools are great schools with great students and great teachers in every single one of them. We need to rebrand ourselves, though, because I think the district is missing out on some opportunities, because there's a lot of positive things going on throughout the district. And when we celebrate that with the community, we can get rid of those negatives that keep cropping up. Celebrate the positive aspects of what's going on throughout the district. Not in East or West Duluth, but throughout the district. The community needs to hear from ISD 709 in that way. We need to focus on accreditation. You know, accreditation should be one of our #1 priorities, because with accreditation, we then can have higher standards for all. And there's nothing wrong with high standards for all. We also need a system-wide equity policy. A system-wide equity policy that not only benefits kids of color, but benefits every stakeholder in the district. And if I am elected to ISD 709 School Board, that's the first thing I will do, is to make sure we have a system-wide equity policy that is a benefit to every single person. Thank you.
Well, it echoed my appreciation and the opportunity to sit with everyone tonight and share my ideas and listen to the ideas of a lot of people who are leaders in our community that are engaging a lot of different voices. And I can promise that as someone who's working as hard as I can to hopefully get elected to the school board, that I will serve our community in the best way that I know possible. And it's through working as hard as I can to know people and to know our community. I've spent many hours on doors this year, knocking and listening to people's stories, going to community events of every forum and background, and I want to know more. I want to know our community because I believe in our community. I'm thankful to have been raised in this school system, and I want to be able to now have a chance to serve it. And so I look forward to hopefully meeting folks after this if you have any questions, and hopefully we'll be able to write the next chapter for our schools, and that's centered around our kids and our community. Thank you.
I'd like to thank the League, and I'd like to thank all of you who have come here today to sort through all the candidates for the school board. Those of you who are farther away have not been able to witness what the people up close see, and that is when I grab a cup of coffee or a cup of water, I tremble a little bit. My wife has noticed that when I pick up a newspaper, and she thinks I have neurological damage. I think it's just too much caffeine. But I'll tell you what is the greatest caffeine for me is public education. I think that public education is the foundation of any society, any nation that wants to make progress in the world. And there is no other nation besides the United States until very recently that demonstrated that so clearly. And it troubles me that I left the school board and so many things seem to have deteriorated in the 8 years since I've left. That's not because we didn't invest in our schools, but things are not going the way they ought to, and our children are not getting the education or the small classes that they need. If I am fortunate enough to be given the public's approval to serve again, I will be just as caffeinated for the next 4 years, and I will do everything I possibly can to pick up the pieces of a huge jigsaw puzzle, and it is a big one, for our kids' sake.
I'm running for the school board because I have a love of education. It's as I said earlier, I'm a lifelong learner. I had a background of information technology for 25 years, whereas you're implementing solutions that help businesses become more efficient. You're having to learn constantly about what the different aspects are of the business you're looking at, and finding ways in which to make things work better. And I'm grateful to the teachers that helped instill that love of education for me so that I could utilize that throughout my life. And I would really hope that that's something that we can do for the future students of our school district. I also have an extensive background in finance. And with my Master's of Business Administration degree, I'm the Chief Deputy Auditor for St. Louis County, and I am very concerned about the financial aspects about what's going on with the schools. And so my background is to dig in and to find out what the problems are, to bring community members together, or business members, or whatever problem I'm digging into, bring them together to find solutions, and then come up with ways to get those implemented so that we're not just talking, we're actually doing. We're making a difference and we're making things happen. And that is something that I've done all my life, and that's an aspect that I would bring to the school board. I believe that our financial situation has come about from multiple reasons. There's not just one thing out there. There's I believe that there's some bullying that's going on that needs to be stopped, that children are leaving our district because of that. And then as well as the state withholding funding and us having to borrow. We should be having to borrow. And so with that, I'll end and pass it on.
I'll echo what the others said and thank everyone for coming, and thank the League and our sponsors for putting this forum on. I hope everyone had a good time and learned a lot from the candidates and from our responses. Growing up here and going to Duluth Public Schools was great. I enjoyed my time. It is sad for me to see that 2 of the schools I went to are now closed. But we're in a new model now. And with that new model, when my wife and I decided to move to Lester Park, we found a house that was only a couple blocks down from Lester Park School. And, we have the vision of walking. At the time, we just had our son and being able to hold his hand and walk him up the 2 blocks to get to it. And that excited me. But we all became aware, and everyone in this room is well aware of the issues that we have in those schools. You know, we have a school built for around 450 kids that has 500 in it right now at Lester Park. We have other classes that are bulging out. We have other schools that are full. And we have to do better, and we can do better. As a community, we're all aware of that, and I hope that if I'm elected, people can see me as a visible and vocal advocate for everyone, and know that I'll be trustworthy, I'll be honest, and I'll be open to all ideas, and be willing to respond to people in earnest. And I do look forward to the opportunity, and again, thank you very much for putting this on.
Okay, I'm going to try this again. I want to thank the co-sponsors again, and call out to the League of Women Voters and the PTA, two organizations that I feel I've been a product of in terms of learning leadership skills and gaining a lot of knowledge on issues, particularly issues with education. But thank all of the co-sponsors. There's 6 words I want you to think about when you think about me and why I would be great on the school board. One is the experience I bring in as a parent that's been actively engaged for 20 years in my kids' education, that's been actively engaged with a lot of organizations that deal with kids and families here in the community, across the community. So experience. Knowledge that I've earned over the years of being involved in the community, being involved on issues at the state and national level. Leadership, I've been elected into other positions. I've served on many committees. I bring a lot of knowledge about how to work in a effective way on a variety of boards and committees. Relationships, I have many. They're deep. They're across the city. They're with these 3 wonderful high school kids who have, some of them spent time at my house. So relationships, passion. I've been passionate about education way before my kids were born. But then, I've been a parent for 20 years. Commitment. I've had commitment to the school district, even going through some of the struggles. I've worked hard for levies. I've worked hard I've advocated on different things at the school board. So commitment, those are all the things I bring to the school board.
Thank you all for having us tonight and the opportunity to speak, and I'm very happy Students for the Future is in good hands and will be for the future. We're at a pivot point here in the history of Duluth and the schools. Duluth has an opportunity to shine again. The mayor's vision of 90 by 20, 90,000 people by the year 2020. It's not so much a plan, but it's a vision. You can't even start down that road without good-looking schools and high-performing schools. We have the good-looking schools. We have the big bills to prove it. We have to work on the performance now. We're at the pivot point of where we're coming from, the investments we've made, and we've got to look ahead. This school board election gives a great opportunity to the voters to make that message very loud and clear, to deliver the message of you, yes, go to the school board, you have the vision that we need for the future. The levy is the other message. Here are the dollars that we're entrusting to you. Spend them the way we value. Show us that you deserve our trust. So this election encapsulates message and dollars, the past and the future, and I'm really proud to be part of it.
One of the fun things about campaigning is meeting all the people. Going door to door is really quite exciting. First you hear about people, you see some of the beautiful architecture in Duluth, the beautiful creeks that you walk beside. It's really, really kind of fun. But I'm glad to see that some of my other candidates are acknowledging that there's also a little bit of angst out there. There's some unhappy people out there. We have lost 1,700 students. We have eliminated 180 teacher positions. We have eliminated 200 other aides. It's not good enough to say we have to lower our class sizes. It's not good enough to say this isn't acceptable. What are we going to do about it? What can we do about it? This is the big thing that we've got. I'm going to leave all of you with this. Is that every year, for the last 5 years, we've pulled $29 million out of the general fund to pay for long-range facility debts. That's $29 million. That pales the levy, it pales Central, and we have to do better. That is not sustainable. And do we want the 7-0 board, again, that is rubber stamping what we've done, that have got us into this position? No, we need a board that is working. I'm looking forward to working with 3 new board members that's going to change us around and make our schools financially viable, put money back into the classrooms, and that's what we have to do. Thank you for coming.
I think this would be the appropriate time to applaud our candidates. I'd like to thank all the candidates for your thoughtful answers and for your time here. And I want to especially compliment you on how well you shared the microphone. At this time, this concludes our candidate forum. We hope this program has helped you learn more about the candidates and their positions on the issues of importance to you, so that you can make an informed choice at the polls on Election Day, November 5th. To find out more about your precinct and where to vote, you can go to the website, lwvmn.org. It stands for the League of Women Voters Minnesota. So it's lwvmn.org. And you can plug in your address and zip code, and it will give you the details and links to registration and to where you can vote. Or you can stop at the table. We have information. Look for people wearing the League of Women Voters button, and they can also help you. The League of Women Voters is a trusted, nonpartisan political organization. While we never endorse a candidate, we are directly involved in shaping the important issues to keep our community strong. As a League of Women Voter member, I have the opportunity to contribute to a leadership role such as this one that has a great impact on local, state, and even national issues. If you're interested in learning more about how you can make a similar impact, I would encourage you to pick up information at the table outside the door, it is also available at our website, and that's lwbduluth.org, and that gives you information about our local organization here. I thank you all for coming, and remember to vote for the candidate of your choice on November 5th. Thank you.